Hi, this is Paul from the Coda community, and this is my first ever screencast/lesson about Coda. Today I'm going to show you how you can synchronize the changes from one admin doc to multiple smaller user-facing docs. This is a real-world task from one of my clients where they needed to make changes in an admin panel, which was one Coda doc, and then these changes had to be reflected in individual users' docs. Uh, I'm so yeah, this is my first screencast like that. It's not my first take. I screwed up in my previous recording, but still, I'm going to do it in a single take with no jump cuts, no editing. I wanted to record this for a while now, but only now I have some time for that. So yeah, it's gonna be a bit awkward. Actually, it's been already because it's not my first take. But yeah, I'm going to show you from scratch how to build such a system from scratch using Coda and the free Zapier tier. So yeah, let's get started. Of course, for the sake of simplicity, we could make a simple to-do list or whatever, but I thought that maybe let's do something more useful. Uh, Particularly, yeah, as I mentioned before, as I'm going to probably mention again, I'm doing some Coda freelancing. So what this means is there are clients who approach me, they ask to help them with their docs. It can be as simple as just helping them out with some formulas and lookups, or as as complicated as building a whole system, a whole solution based on multiple no-code services all integrated together using Zapier. And for that, so to track my work with clients, I've created myself a task tracker using Coda so that I can track my work, write down the estimations, and then for every individual client, I can create a dashboard which I send only to them, and then all the changes that I make in my admin panel, in my freelancing dashboard, they all are getting synchronized to those individual clients' docs. And I thought we can do this, I could do this as an example. Let's keep it super bare bones, super simple, so no fancy UI as I have in my docs, just tables and everything connected, and I'm just showing you how this can be done. So okay, let's start with my freelancer dashboard. Naturally, we will have table clients, which is client name, which is, let's say, Spotify, Uber, and Twitter. And we will have a table tasks. So we will have a task title. It will have a client, estimated time for the task, logged time for the task, and whether it's done. And also we will need this down the road, and this is where I screwed up with my first take. I didn't do this earlier, then it was too late. Is a row ID, so some identifier by which we can then see whether we are synchronizing a new row or an existing row. So yeah, we're gonna need an ID, which in our case is just row ID for now. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Let's create some sample tasks, like write a formula to calculate playlist duration, which is obviously for Spotify. Like add a lookup on all is per department, which let's say it's for Uber, and calculate total length of all tweets by day, which is for Twitter. And let's say this is 30 minutes, this is like 1 hour, and this is like whatever, 15 minutes. Alright, we have this little table. We have freelancer's dashboard. Let's now create a template for the docs that we will clone then for every individual client. And that table will be basically the same. We can copy this tasks table. Let's call it clients template. Just copy the table here. We don't need to have a client here because every client will have their individual doc. And the ID will not be a formula field. This will be filled by Zapier when synchronizing the tasks here. Yeah, I think we're done with our setup for now. And we are sort of ready to write a Zap, but not yet, because as we know, as you may know already, there is a thing with Zapier and Coda. There is no way to trigger Zaps based on changes to existing rows. Zapier can only react on new rows in a table, which is a problem because if I want to mark the task done, this will not be picked by Zapier. There is a very simple workaround for that. We just need to create a separate table where we will create new rows whenever anything changes in the tasks table. We can easily achieve this with some formulas and buttons and or automations. I believe if you want to learn more, I believe there is a tutorial by Krunal from Coda. It's posted somewhere in the community. You can find it there. But the trick is very simple. We're creating a tasks export table. Let's name it this way. It will also have a title and an ID. This will have this will not have a client for now, but we will add this later. Again, estimated. We could just copy that one, but well, logged and whether it's done. So yeah, that's the export table. And just to make things more consistent, we'll create a button here. We'll call it schedule sync, which is basically what it's gonna do. It's gonna create new rows in an export table, which will then be picked by Zapier on the next Zap running cycle, which is for free tier every 15 minutes. So yeah, schedule sync, we can call this that. And the action for now will be like tasks export, add row, ID this row ID, title this row title, estimated this row estimated, locked this row locked, done this row done. All right, so now we can create new rows. We can change something and create new row. Here, these will be picked by Zapier. There is one problem, but we'll get to this later. Let's set up a Zap that will copy these. Alright, we have this in place. For now, we only have a template, not individual docs. Let's set up a Zap that will copy these tasks from here to the template doc. Go to Zapier. First step is we trigger on a new row in a, this takes a while, in a freelancer's dashboard tasks export table. And the sample that we have, and we add a step that you need to show less common options that upserts the row in a client's template. What upsert mean is it updates or inserts the row. It updates if it finds a row, if it finds this record already in the client's template, or it inserts a new one if it doesn't. That's what we need IDs for. So the document for now will be client's template. The table is the tasks table. We will be matching records by ID. So yeah, we're inserting title into title, we're inserting estimated into estimated, we're inserting logged into logged, done into done, and ID into ID. Send the test. And ideally, in a few moments, we should see that sample task inserted into this doc. And our Zap is on. Yeah, needed to just refresh the page. For some reason this didn't come in. But yeah, we can see that the task is now synchronized to the client's template. Alright, so this was task number 3. Let's clean this up and let's do some edits. Like, let's say we logged the task is not done. Let's say we logged 10 minutes, synchronized the change, then we logged 20 minutes, synchronized the change, and then we set this as done. So now we have like changes that need to be picked by Zapier. We're not going to wait for 15 minutes. To speed things up, we can trigger the manual run. It's going to pick on the four new rows and perform the upsert. But as we can see, something went wrong. It didn't update the data to the latest state, like 20 minutes and done. It sets the data to some other row, to this row perhaps. So what happened here is that Zapier doesn't have a determined order of picking these rows. It usually works in reverse order or some mixed up order. It can ignore some of the rows and then pick them on the next Zap cycle. So whenever you have multiple records on the same task, that is a gotcha for you. It may not update the target table with the latest record here. So what you need to do is simple workaround for that is whenever a schedule sync button is pressed, you don't just add a row, but first you delete all the rows for this task, so that whenever a zap runs, it only sees one row per task in the exports table, and it's either the freshest one after the update, or it's the one that it had already processed in the previous cycle. So first we delete the rows from tasks export which have ID equal to this row ID, and then I like to keep my formulas clean and nicely indented. So whenever we press the button, it first deletes whatever is there in the table and creates a new record. And this way there is only one record, the latest and the greatest, per each task in the exports table. Let's run this now. Yeah, and we sort of have task number 3 is can sort to have a better view. So 10, 20, 10, 20, done. All right, so that is rather simple for now. We have a setup from where we are syncing our changes from one doc to another. But our whole idea is to have this document for every client, an individual document for every client. So let's clone this document 3 times. Let's say this will be poll for Twitter. Poll for Uber. And before you're doing that, make sure that your tables are final, because if you ever feel that you need to add some columns, you'll have to recreate all those clones of the document again. This is the downside of this approach. So you cannot just go over like 5 of your clients and create a column there and there and there. You'll have to you'll have basically the simplest way to do any changes to these tables. It will be to just edit this in a template and then make all the copies again. Okay, and we have Uber, Twitter, and Spotify. All course. You'll see later. I'll explain why this is so. Okay, we have 3 docs. Now we need to associate them with every client. So the simplest way, and for the simplicity's sake of this example, what we'll do is just copy the ID part, the doc ID part of every doc, which can be found in the URL. So how you can find a doc ID? Of course, you can go more sophisticated. You can copy the whole URL, then you use some regular expression magic to extract those doc IDs. But what you can, just for the simplicity's sake, we're gonna copy the IDs. How can you find an ID of a doc? So if you look at the URL, there will be this like coda.io/d/name of the doc _d and then some alphanumeric symbols, which will usually be 10 alphanumeric symbols. And then slash something section something something something. So the part that you're interested in is the part that comes after _d and before the slash. So for Twitter, it will be this part for this doc. For Uber, it will be this part. And for Spotify, it will be this part. We will need to let Zapier know about these doc IDs because Zapier will have to know where to put the changes. We are going to update our Zap not to put all the changes into the template doc, but into individual docs which can be located by these IDs. So in the export table, we're gonna add a field, a column which we'll call client doc ID, and we'll modify the schedule sync button, which will set this column to this row client doc ID. What's left now is go to Zapier and set up the destination doc in such fashion that instead of a specified document, it will we scroll all down to the bottom and use a custom value. And this custom value, instead of using the custom value, the ID of that doc that we would have otherwise selected in the document field. First, let's get the new samples because the previous one didn't have the doc ID in them. So yeah, let's use this one. So now that instead of the client's template, we use a custom value, and in place of a static doc ID, we use the value from the one that comes from the source document, client doc ID. So for every row, for every client, this will be a dynamic value. This value will be individual for every task, for every client. And this will work because whenever you clone a document, so what Zapier does with Coda. What Zapier does with Coda is that it locates all these columns and tables not by their names, but by their internal IDs. You can, if you enable developers option, you can see these column IDs whenever you look into the menus of each column, or you can get them using REST APIs. But the important thing is that whenever you clone a doc, all table IDs and all column IDs remain the same across all the doc copies. That's why it's important that you do all the changes in a template doc and then clone it. And whenever you need to add a column, you do this in a template doc and then clone it again and again. Because if you start adding columns in every individual docs, they will be assigned different and random IDs, and Zapier will not be able to locate those columns in different docs. So the IDs will be different across the docs. But if you do all the changes in a template doc and then clone it, all the individual docs will have all the same table IDs and all the same column IDs. This is the trick. So yeah, our row should have been sent to some of these docs already. Oh, here it is. So it's sent to the Twitter doc. Another important thing to know is that whenever you add any rows, you will not be able to edit the template as easily after. Okay, we'll get to that later. Let's see that this works. Let's mark this 1 hour and done. Let's mark this like 2 hours and done. Let's mark this 3 hours and done. Sync, sync, sync. And you, of course, you can set up automation to press these buttons whenever anything changes automatically. But for the sake of simplicity, we are doing this manually for this tutorial. Let's run this zap to speed things up. It should trigger on 3 new rows. And we can see that for Spotify we have this task, logged 1 hour and done. For Uber we have this task and done. And for Twitter we have 3 hours and done. This task, 3 hours and done. And our setup works. Now, yeah, the thing that I wanted to tell you. If you need to change something like add columns and stuff, if you now try to edit this step, it will tell you that all the fields are now invalid, and it will suggest you some other fields and something else. So what you have to do is, again, select the template doc, repeat all the setup, add new fields, so delete the old fields, add new fields, and then go back and do this step with custom doc ID again. So you use a custom value, and in place of a static value, use the one that comes from step 1 whenever you need to edit something. But yeah, if you do it this way, even though this step says that these fields are invalid and they don't seem to be used and blah blah blah, you can safely ignore it. This will still work. And I guess that's about it. So you can now create something similar for your whenever you have a need to, like you have some admin doc for individual clients to-dos, or maybe you're managing a team and you want every person to see only their piece of data, or whatever you are managing where you need to restrict access to the admin doc, you can use this technique to make one admin doc and make individual docs and sync the data and just route the changes to respective docs. Or you can do this yourself, or you can contact me and I can make such a solution for you fast. And if it requires something else, something more sophisticated than that, you can contact me and I'll be happy to help you with your setup as well. Of course, also I wanted to tell you that I'm going to start a blog on different Coda tricks, something that I've discovered and something that other amazing community members have discovered. So this will be a blog. The blog will be named codatricks.com. It's not. I registered the domain, but haven't had time yet to just start publishing anything. But yeah, that's where I'm going to then share my knowledge and the tricks that I've learned about Coda. So keep that in mind. Maybe at the moment when you're watching this video, the blog will be up already. But for now, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and press the notification button. And yeah, thanks for watching and good luck with your docs. See ya.